Welcome to the working title version 0.3.0. Just going to showcase some of the features of this version. So one of the big things was we changed the formatting or the template system on the FMS because there was a lot of shortcomings in the older version, such as we could only place things in certain areas. You can only have 3 positions on these lines, and the text sizes would change. So there's a lot of limitations. Another thing too is you couldn't have different colors for each of the inputs here. So I'll show the takeoff page. So for example here, this was not possible to be able to switch these things and also change the size of the text to tell you which one is active. That was not possible in the old system. So it took a little while to get that set in, but now the FMS, we can make it a lot more realistic and a lot more capability. Next, we improved some things on the Direct-to page as well as on the legs page as well, but there's still a lot of work to be done. It's very complicated with the flight plan manager and all that. We also didn't want to make some changes because if we break this stuff, it's really not even usable if you can't even navigate. So that'll be in store for later when we figure all this out. We made some changes to the progress page for error checking, make sure not going to get any crashes or anything like that. The database page now does work, or at least you can look up all sorts of fixes now. I think like nav aids, airports, and waypoints and all that. So let's just go ahead and throw in Denver. So this gives us airport information. The database that Asobo is using is kind of strange. It doesn't have correct values in a lot of things. It's also, I think, at least 2 years old, since some of them are just kind of weird. I think the runway at Denver is 15,000 feet long, because this should show the longest runway. It also doesn't have any magnetic variation for airports right now. I don't know why. Feet and meters doesn't work yet, but you could also throw in a VOR. Throw in Medina here, select it, and it'll give us the frequency, so it's kind of handy to have. And you can also throw in any sort of fix, and it'll give you the location and things like that. So that's pretty cool. Next up, we changed the templates on every page to make it a little bit more realistic and for how it's going to line up. We've changed some of the takeoff calculations. We added these little switches here, so it actually works. We also added stuff here as well. And then also, let's just go ahead and throw in 6,000 pounds of bags. So our gross weight right now is 20,000 pounds. If we go to the takeoff page, it's going to turn yellow to indicate that we are too heavy, since our max takeoff weight is 17,110. Can't talk. So it's going to turn yellow if the value is too high. So anytime you see yellow in the FMS, that means there's an issue that you need to correct. And this also does it as well on the approach page if your landing weight here is above your max landing weight. So speaking of the landing page, we actually now have it, so the landing weight is actually calculated. Because before it was only using the gross weight, which was basically your takeoff weight, so it wouldn't change in flight. Now, however, we have it set up. It's pretty crude. It still needs some adjustment, but it will, once you're in flight and moving and all that, it will take into account how much fuel you're going to burn as it takes to the destination and subtract that from the weight. So the landing weight should be much closer to reality. We also have, in the perf, the fuel management page. If we go to this page here, page 2, we actually now have the fuel used column, which does work. You do have to reset it if you start the flight. It's not going to start counting on its own. That's something we're going to change, but right now the functionality is in there. So if you go ahead and reset it, it's going to set it back to 0, and you can see it's starting to tick up now. So actually, it's good. Boost it up a little bit. Yeah, so it's going to tick up a little faster now as we're consuming more fuel. So something to keep track of. Next, we have some input checks for the wind specifically, so you can't really put in a number or put in a letter in this field, because otherwise it would just give some error. Also, you can't put winds of like 400 degrees. That's not going to work as well. Oops, never mind. We've got to change that. However, it will. There we go. Okay. If the winds are calm, you don't need to put anything in here. You can just leave it blank, or if you could put zeros if you want, since it's not really it's not gonna affect anything. But if it's winds are calm, you can just leave it blanked out. But let's just go ahead and put something in here. All right. So next is, let's see, let's go ahead and go to the tune page. All right, now we've actually fixed radio or the frequency inputs, so everything should work. I saw there's an error where some frequencies, they just wouldn't go in there, but now all frequencies should go in. And also this allows for varied inputs for the frequency. So for example, let's go ahead and put in 121.50. You could put it in like that. However, that is kind of redundant. You don't need to type the 1 or the decimal place because those are always there. So you could put that in as well as, you can put it in as 21.5. You can put it in as, like, I don't know, 25.52. You could put in any different combination you want. You could put it in the dot if you want. But that gives you the option to do that as well. So that's really nice. And on the flight plan page, we added some of the exec button logic to make it a little bit better. And for now, this is probably where you want to input stuff in your flight plan, even though it's not. It should be done on the legs page, but that's kind of there for that's a different story. But so here, if you wanted to put in fixes and all that, you can put it in here. It's still a lot of issues to be done. Yeah, see, it's not even quite showing it. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of work to be done on this, but that will be for another time. And let's see. Another thing we have done is the display menu functions are partly working, at least for what we've got right now. So you can go ahead and turn on nav aids, or at least low nav aids. Right now it's just all nav aids that the sim is showing. You can turn on intersections. There's a lot of them. We're going to adjust that because really in reality you should only show a maximum of 40 symbols on the map, but we'll get to that. You can show airports, as well as altitude or the altitude restrictions on your flight plan. For example, if you're coming in on arrival and you had to cross a certain fix at 10,000 feet, it's going to show that next to the fix on the map. And of course, you could turn all these on if you wanted to. Next is the Mfd Advance, which this feature here is you can cycle through your waypoints if you go to the plan page. So if you go to lower menu, go to, oh, I'm sorry, not map symbols, up here, go to the plan page. Now you could cycle through your waypoints. Let me zoom out just a bit. So if you go to the next waypoint, MCK, LNK, it's going to cycle through it all, and I'll zoom out a little more. You see it. So it's a handy feature to have if you want to go through your flight plan. And also TO waypoint, that means the to waypoint or the waypoint you're currently going to. If you click that, it's going to go back to the fix that you're going to next. So in this case, the MCK VOR. So pretty handy to have. On the PFD, we updated to have the UTC time with seconds on there. We also have put in the logic for, let's go to it, the angle of attack display. So normally it's in the automatic position. What that means is it's not going to show up until you go to flaps 35. There it goes. So when you come out of flaps 35, there we go. It's going to go away. You could also, whoops. Let's go change that. You can have it on all the time, or you could have it, you can just turn it off completely. So this is up to you now. So it's pretty cool. Next we have, let's get out of here. We did some improvements with the Autopilot, just a few things, at least in pitch. Now it's not going to pitch aggressively to overshoot and undershoot like when your flight level change, so that's been improved. We have climate control knob works. You can turn this on. Cockpit temp now works. The source works. This should always be in the normal position. You're never going to run anything else unless there's some sort of problem with it. In fact, if it's off, you're not going to have any pressurization in the aircraft, which doesn't have any pressurization now. So And also, the pilot fan does work, and there is audio with this as well. However, it's kind of hard to hear. We're going to adjust that in the future, but it's there. So, pretty cool if you want a little more immersion. Also, we have the seatbelt sign works with a little message as well.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt sign. Please fasten your seatbelt and shoulder harness at this time. Thank you.
And finally, we have some changes to the lighting in the cockpit. As you can see, it's pretty subtle, but you can see the screens are casting a little bit of light on the panels here, so it's not completely dark. And also, there's now cabin lighting, which is also visible from the exterior. So that pretty much sums up some of the fixes we've got for this patch. I'm going to go ahead and make a video a little bit later on actually how to fly the airplane and go through all the FMS steps that you would do to start a flight and all that, and kind of give you an overview of a flight from start to finish. So thank you, and we'll talk to you later.